He played Miami. He played like 64 snaps. And against Miami, he had 9 tackles. He's flying all over the place. Honestly, if you just take the Miami game, you'd be like, all right, I like this guy. Like, you just take the Miami game, you understand why the Lions would sign him. And to me, here's where the two things kind of collided of, oh, this makes a lot of sense. And this is why it can be very important. Because of the Malcolm Rodriguez injury, not only do you need that flexibility, because Malcolm does everything. Like Malcolm, undersized, sure, but he literally can play everywhere at backer. He was good when you put him on the ball. I was like, oh, he's pretty good there. He's good as a will. He can play as a Mike. He's so stout. He takes on blocks really well. His coverage got a lot better last season. Like Malcolm Rodriguez really can do it all as a backup. So you take him out of the mix. That's a very valuable piece to just not have available. So Grant Stuard, you may call in some flexibility here, but he stylistically has some real similar traits to how Malcolm Rodriguez plays the game. When you watch him, you see things, you're like, that reminds me of Malcolm coming out. When you watch Malcolm coming out of the draft, you feel a little bit of that with Grant Stuard. When you watch him move, when you watch what makes him good, what makes him successful, what made Indianapolis Colts fall in love with Grant Stuard was exactly what I'm about to show you, which is how fast that he plays. Right? People, the Colts fans fell in love with this guy because he was very decisive. He was very quick. He get to his spots incredibly quickly. He beat linemen to spots where they could even pick him up and block him. You get him in covered spots. Like, I don't know. He might be a little limited here. What do we say about Malcolm Rodriguez? I really say the exact same thing. It's like, oh, he's pretty good in coverage. Usually gets to the right spot in depth. And I see that same thing when I watch Grant Stuard. But you're like, I don't know. He might be a little limited. And I think Grant has a little bit more limitations in this category. And the reason I say that is because I think that Grant Stuard is a little bit more stiff. You know, you put him in man coverage. I don't think he's just going to have as much fluidity to match it. We'll show an example, but he doesn't have as much fluidity as I think a Malcolm does, where you can just kind of ride your hip. You don't get as much as that, but similar. Like, he's like, all right, he's a little bit on the smaller side. He's not that lengthy. Is he going to make any plays on the football? I don't know. You don't really expect many. Malcolm had that one pick in the playoff game. That's kind of all you're expecting. You're not getting a lot of plays out of Grant Stuard to win the balls in the air, but he may shut it down after the catch, and he'll squeeze guys in zone coverage. So I felt so many similarities when I watched these two guys, and I just want to go through some different notes and things that stuck out to me when I'm not really comparing the two players, but just seeing what we're actually going to get in Grant Stuard. And immediately I started off here. And you see that attack. You see the way that he attacks blocks. You see the physicality. And you know what the thing about Grant is? I think he listed coming out, he was like 225. That was his listed weight. I don't know what he weighs now. He looks bigger than that. Like, some of the photos too, he's a little bit bulked up. Like, the dude ain't skinny, all right? He's a little thick when you watch him. So you could see a little bit of size. Like, all right, that makes it work. He can kind of live a little bit between the tackles. So that's the first thing. The physicality is noticeable. He wants to hit guys. And I think that what he does so well, and why he will fit, is because he's built to compress blocks. He's built to compress blocks. Now, is he a two-gap style piece? Not as much, because as you're going to see, like right here, when a lineman gets up to him on a second level, he can really struggle to get off blocks in sense of he'll have to play well beyond the line of scrimmage. Guys will kind of push him out of the play. He may not be able to punch a offensive lineman and then disengage and step over top of that block. Like, that's not his game. And you think about Alex a little bit when you think about that, right? Like, Malcolm is freakishly strong, so he can actually kind of do some stuff like that. You get a little bit of that with Alex. Like, Alex will play well beyond the line of scrimmage. So you want Alex getting downhill because, again, if guys are cleanly getting up to the next level, what his best asset will be is what you're going to see here is that ability to, okay, I'm going to play my single gap, hold and try to lock out that block, and I can play off of that. And where he's able to thrive isn't what it is with offensive linemen. It's what it is against tight ends. Because against tight ends, he's not completely outreached. He's not completely overpowered at that point of attack, and he attacks guys with consistency. You're going to watch on a lot of these. He's very square. He plays with a nice, firm, two-handed punch, which is incredibly impactful as well. You're going to see those two things, and it translates really well to playing against tight ends. Malcolm's incredible. Malcolm is the dude has made it work, and again, he's getting better. Malcolm was so much better this past season. I hate that we're going to miss him as a side note for the beginning of the season, because here's the positive. He comes back. You'll probably have injuries. He'll probably be quickly called upon to play. And if he's in the game, and I hope we get to see a good dose of him, not because of injuries, but I just want to see him again, because to me, if Malcolm builds on, again, what he did last season, I visualize Malcolm Rodriguez as a guy that's going to be in line for an extension as well. I think Malcolm is getting himself to that point. And it may not sound like, oh, that's the guy you would expect to get the extension, because he's not even a starter. You wouldn't expect that. But I think that he's going to put himself in that category because of he plays everywhere. And by the time he comes back, he may need to play somewhere that's like, that's not what you expect Malcolm to do, but he has to do it anyway. And at the same time, he's getting better. That was some of the qualities that are guys that we had re-signed, you can pick that same quality out. Like, oh, they're getting better though. Like every year you feel like there's something, and that's Derek Barnes. That was Derek Barnes at the core. Derek Barnes just got better and better and better. Now you had to find a perfect spot for him, but he just got better and better and better. And I think that Malcolm, if he can show that as soon as he gets back, being able to fill in where we need it, but on top of that, specifically, not only filling where we need it, but just take another step forward. Because he's already been very consistent. Malcolm Rodriguez as your will backer is outstanding. It's going to be some limitations naturally. I think he's going to be in line for an extension. But now here's the thing. So now we show some coverage stuff, and it's the reactiveness, right? One thing that stands out, and I think there's a little bit of lack of patience at times. Like when you see him on the ball, there's some lack of patience in the sense that he's reactive to everything. You run a jet sweep by him, you're not going to have that jet sweep go by him without him reacting to it. He's going to race out there. He's going to try to cut it off and force back inside. Downside is that guy doesn't always have the ball, and his vision tends to be a little bit inconsistent between the tackles. When things get clogged, his vision tends to get a little bit messy of actually knowing where the football is. Where is the ball? But what he does well is he's disciplined to the sense of, okay, I'm going to play that responsibility anyway, because I don't know if he has the ball, but I'm not going to be guessing to the extent where it's like, all right, I didn't know he had it, so I just didn't deal with it. And it's like, all right, that guy got outside. So at very least, he's going to get out there and do his job. It's just that he may not actually be in on the play because his vision tends to be a little bit shaky when you put him between the tackle box. But like things like this, so you get like a beneath route, and how reactive he is to see that, stay disciplined on that backside, and then race out into the flat. And this is a receiver that he's picking up into the flat here, racing out to the receiver in the flat to race him out of bounds for a gain of 4. It's plays like that, and we see this all the time, play actions, the bootlegs. These little things, linebackers in trouble so fast, especially an aggressive stacking defense, gets you into trouble so fast. But he was so quick to pick up on that, understand, okay, corner's taking the number one receiver. Corner's got him, right? Because as you can see here, he's playing under coverage, so he's going to pick that up. So the next guy to cross my face is the guy that I'm going to have to pick up here, and that's exactly what he does. He picks it up immediately, doesn't jump back inside because of the run fake, stays outside, picks it up, and now he's racing it to the flat. It's little things like that. It's that play speed, and that's where you get some Malcolm vibes, sure, but I get a lot of Alex vibes for the sense of it's just instinctive, and I'm going to go. That doesn't mean it's always I'm actually where the ball is, but what he does well is he attaches the fact that he's going to get to the spot that makes sense based on his responsibility. He just might not always be where the ball is. This is a great example of him being where the ball is. So you get like a wide zone look, right? And one thing about Grant Stuard is there is some plus athleticism here. Now, his sideline to sideline range tends to kind of get minimized, I think, when you watch him because he's not a strider. You're going to see it. He's a pretty short, like kind of stubby type of linebacker that doesn't really cover that much ground when he's striding out. So you get the spots where it's like, all right, he's got to redirect and chase that guy to the sidelines. Like, I don't know if he's going to get out there. I think that also hurts him in coverage. But in instances of what makes him play fast is he's just decisive. So he's going to read the O-line and say, I'm going to go. And he flies off it. And you're going to see the speed at which he plays off of, oh, defensive lineman filled this gap. I'm in on that. So here you get a run that's wide. It's getting way out from him, right? It's like, all right, I got to get back into this play. This thing's getting away from me here. And you see how fast he races to it. And this is where he wins because Lyman, as we touched on, he doesn't do a great job of getting over blocks of offensive linemen. If a lineman connects with him at the second level, he's probably not getting over that block. The best thing you can really hope for is he's going to lay a good punch and settle himself down so that if the run breaks that direction, he's got leverage to push it back inside. Outside of that, if it's not a tight end, he's probably going to get continuously pushed backwards, and that's a problem. So what he does is he has to play fast so that he can avoid. That's one of those things where it's like just adapt to your skill set. You have to adapt to what you're capable of. And in this case, this is him adapting to what he's capable of. I got to beat you to your spot so that I can get there. And you're going to see on the backside, I mean, he's forcing the running back to turn around on a wide zone play on the backside. I told you that, hey, Malcolm Rodriguez, right? Malcolm, he was always good at getting zone depth. I always felt that. And you're going to see it here, play action. This was actually something that was a knock for Grant Stuard coming out. It surprised me. I thought he was pretty good because he would jolt backwards when you're talking about gaining depth just like this. And it's number 41, by the way, for anybody that's confused. We're talking about number 41 here. He's going to jolt back into coverage, and then he's going to cut off this in breaker. Look at this over route. And you see how he cuts it off with the movement speed there. I don't know if he ever even found the route, but he cuts it off. Pass doesn't get thrown. And then all of a sudden, he gives into the flat. Now, here's where we go ups and downs, good things, bad things, right? I like, and again, I see vision. There's certain things that connect you with like, oh, that looks like a Lions guy would do that. Like, Alex, right? So he's very decisive in the sense of coverage, meaning like, okay, Alex will have a responsibility like this where, hey, maybe this wouldn't be a great example, but let's say it's cover 4, right? So he's got the outside third underneath. he's decisive enough to see that outside release and just take it and plaster that route and take it away. And he's immediate. He's going to take it away. He's going to do that. He's not going to bounce in between. He's not like going to hesitate, be like, I don't know if I want to dive. And then he lets the reception happen, gives up 6 yards. No, he's going to drive on the football. He's going to drive on that receiver. Now something might pop up behind him, but he's going to take that guy away that entered the zone. There's no hesitation to that. And I think that there is some of that with Grant Stuard as well. The problem becomes is when the ball gets away from him, so quarterback looks away, he is, to me, he plays so reactive to everything that he sees that this is where the idea of being impatient pops into play. He's not patient to stick with it. He's impatient when he rushes a quarterback, when he'll adjust. Quarterback looks somewhere else. It's like, oh, let me go pick this up. He gets a little bit impatient. So all of a sudden he's like, all right, I'm going to give some ground. And they're like, oh, dang, okay, he's giving ground. Maybe don't give ground here. And then as a tackler, he will miss tackles. Now, what you like about it is his tackle technique is the same all the time. Like, it's not like one of these things where Grant Stuard just decides, like, I'm going to try to throw myself at his ankles. Like, no, this is how he tackles all the time. And he's pretty accurate. Like, when he goes for the ankles, he hits the right spot. He trips guys up a lot, but that's how he tackles. And he's not that lengthy. So for him, he can get sealed out of plays where he can't reach and actually make the tackle. But that's how he does it. The benefit of that is when he lands, there's no leakage at all. I mean, the guy goes down immediately. It's like, all right, play's dead. And he can make plays behind the line of scrimmage because of that. The downside is that he will absolutely miss tackles like that because he gives himself such a small target to actually aim for. So it can put him in some bad spots. And then you're going to see right here, again, a zone coverage drop. This is where I talk about some of the lack of looseness, right? Because like, all right, pick that up, right? He can drop it off to the inside help, but there's some lack of looseness. But this is what, to me, makes Grant Stuard important. And this is where I'm going to start to fire off some of these clips here, is this kind of play speed. Like, this was one of the coolest plays to me. So Bleacher Report, you're not seeing it, but we get these short yardage situations, and you want guys to play fast, right? You want guys to meet the moment. That's what I always think of, right? There's a moment in time where it's like, let's meet the moment. Let's understand the situation, understand what they're trying to accomplish. So when it's a short yardage situation, I need you to also play fast. I can't have you hesitate and let it happen. I remember I thought Jack did that at times in year one, where you kind of just like sit back and it's like, all right, he's not making enough plays behind the line of scrimmage. He's kind of just letting it happen. Like maybe he's filling his gap, but he's letting it happen in front of him. This is a case where it's like meeting the moment of, okay, this is going to happen quickly. I got to roll. So he recognizes the zone scheme, and then you're going to see the fullback dive, and he's out of there. But he's also playing off the D tackle, so he allows the linebacker to bump, lets the defensive tackle fill the gap so he can roll to the outside of the gap, and he's fast to get there. So he's beating the ball carrier to the spot. Ball carrier hasn't shown that he's going there. He's beating him to the spot because he's just playing fast. And he's like, I'm going. I see it. I see the scheme. I'm running to that spot. And that's what he does well. So that's the point. Sometimes he's not always where the ball is because maybe the ball doesn't go there, but he's going to run to his spot. And that's what you typically get as a positive. And you can see this, the short area athleticism, the ability to kind of just bounce around blocks. He has a lot of that skill set within his game. You're going to see, hey, drop off in coverage. You see quarterback take off. Let me get out of here. I'm going to go find him. I'm going to track him down. He has that kind of juice to his game. And I think as you watch these plays, you get vibes of Malcolm Rodriguez. Like, oh, yeah, Malcolm would do things like that. Again, beating linemen to their spot. See how quickly he's recognizing the scheme here? You have the puller. I think this was like a gap play. You see the puller on the play. He's racing out to go find it, beats the lineman to the block. Now, all of a sudden, he's low, goes for the ankles, brings him down. That's how he wins. Backside, same kind of idea here, right? Backside. Now, can he work over the gap? Maybe not that well. So you get the strong punch, and all of a sudden, that gap in the front side is beat. So now he relies on everybody else to handle business. But he's going to hold his ground, essentially, right? He's going to get that punch and settle himself down. He just may not go above and beyond to make the play. And I always like those guys that have the length, right? I always like those guys that have length, can maybe go above and beyond. And Jack Campbell is the first guy that Malcolm can do. Derek Barnes can do that too. Malcolm brings some in his own way because he's so strong. But last year we started to see as all these injuries piled up, and I think it's a big part of this is it's just hard to find guys that are long and athletic, and also like those guys get drafted high. Those guys aren't just sitting available in free agency. Like, yeah, you want a guy that's like 245 and can run, can get off of blocks. Like, yeah, that's not really there, right? That's why Jack Campbell went round one. Those guys aren't just available. So I think it's a big part of it. But last year when you bring in the Quan Alexanders and you bring in the David Longs, you're like, these guys are pretty undersized for what the Lions seemingly look for with linebackers. Part of that is I think that's what's available. So what they wanted to go after when that's what's available is let's get guys that play fast, guys that are instinctive, guys that roll, and maybe bring some coverage upside. And I think that Grant Stuard fits that category of what they're looking for. And you'll see that stoutness to his game, at least enough to deal with lead blocks, to deal with tight ends if you put him on the ball. It's like, all right, he's going to handle his own. Watch him here. Boom. You see how stout he is? He's wide. He's square, handles the block, doesn't get pushed backwards, and now he's in to make a tackle. That's enough. It's not great. It's not like that's where he's going to excel, but it's enough. And you can live with that between the box. And then you see him here in zone. You're like, all right, well, look, you notice how he finds the hitch. he finds the edge. Now, when he opens himself up, it's not that loose. So that burst transition kind of lacks a little bit. You start to see the stride depth isn't great. Put him in man, there's fluidity, but look how tall he is. This is where you're like, I don't know if he's going to be able to stick with guys through man. He's a little bit tall, and man, that transition burst isn't fantastic either. So there is limitation there. You might want to view him more as a 2-down backer. That's okay. We don't need him on 3rd down. For his role, I don't need a guy that's going to play on 3rd down, right? That's not what I need him for. I need him for zone drops. I need him to play the run specifically. We got to be better against the run this year. On 3rd down, yeah, he's probably not going to be my choice of like, let's get this guy on the field, but that's okay because he doesn't need to fill necessarily that role. You're going to see that fill his gap quickly. There's the 2-handed punch, stay square. Let me get in the backfield to make a play. So to me, ultimately, I think when you put it together, the reason he's so important is because of where the Lions are at with linebacker. But it's also, to me, what the Lions went through last year. I think you can learn a lot, right? You should be able to learn from what didn't work. I don't want to say what didn't work, but you want to be able to learn and grow from, like, all right, what were issues last season? And we talked about run defense as a whole, but it was a real issue that the Lions were just looking under every rock to try to find a guy that could play linebacker last season. And unfortunately, it's not a lot you can do with that. If everybody gets hurt, they get hurt. It is what it is. But they were doing that. For weeks, they were like, all right, can anybody do this? And they were looking for a certain type. And it was like, let's get a guy that's instinctive, a guy that plays fast, and that could bring some juice and coverage. That'd be great, too. And they had some different body styles come in. And I think that Grant Stuard has that similar body type, but maybe just a little bit more. Obviously, he's young. You get special teams value here as well, but you get a little bit more bulk to him as well. And this is the type of player that you may not see him week 1 yet. I see this guy for a while, but at some point you're probably going to see him. And you're going to need him. You're going to need to do something that maybe isn't what he's comfortable with doing, or that's you would think of him as, but he's going to have to fill into that role because you just need it. And you need it that way the other guys can play where they can be their best. Or maybe he is in a spot that he's typically comfortable, but you're going to need that piece. And especially without Malcolm, at least through the first 8-9 weeks, however long that's going to be, he is the most similar body type that we have to Malcolm. And then depending on Alex, that even adds more to that potential. So for the Lions, that's what their linebacker room is filled of. You have guys that make sense. Alex, Barnes, Jack. We know what their roles are. But beyond that, there's a lot of, well, this guy can kind of do that and this. Zach Cunningham was a 3-4 inside linebacker. It's like, all right, we can kind of put him either spot, but he can also rush. You can put him on the ball. He can do a little bit of that. You get the Stuard, and you're like, I don't know. He's kind of undersized. He's got to be this. Well, he can play on the ball a little bit. He can take on blocks a little bit. He can definitely chase guys. So you get a little bit of everything, right? It may not be like, oh, this is the perfect spot for him, but that's what the Lions' depth is made up of as of right now in the entire linebacker room. Is a lot of guys that are just, we can do a little bit of lot. We can do a little bit of everything here, and we're going to need that. And I think especially in the meantime, one of the values of having a guy like Malcolm Miss, and I don't think there's any positive to this, but I'm going to make it a positive twist anyway, is, again, you could get that guy back when you need him. Like, oh, man, we got a couple guys now, and we need somebody. Oh, here's Malcolm. Perfect. Great time to get him back, and he gives you that jolt to the team. But in that meantime, it'd be great to be better than what it was last season. And Grant Stuard could be the guy that ends up replacing what the Lions had to go through last year of just searching everywhere to try to find somebody to help them out when guys started going down with injuries. And I think that the Lions at very least got ahead of it this offseason. I really do, as best as they could. Now, look, if you lose 5 linebackers due to injury, you're back in your same spot. That is what it is. And I think to an extent that happened last year. But at very least, I think Alex is still going to play. And the fact that you signed Cunningham as of now, that helped you get ahead of it a little bit. Like, let's at least have a preparation option. Let's have something to get to here in case something happens. And then getting Grant Stuard just feels like exactly what they were trying to figure out last year. And it's like, let's just get it now. And let's just have that guy along the roster. We'll see how it shakes out, but let's get him in the building now. Let's not wait until the season starts and try to search for that piece when we need it. So I don't know that he makes the team based on his contract. I think he'll make the team, and I think he's more of a lock for us. But I also think that he's going to fill an important role.